नमस्ते। सो नाउ लेट्स कवर आउट आर्टिकल 13। तो पहले हमने बात करी फॉर स्टेट, नाउ इट्स अबाउट लॉ कि अब लॉ का क्या क्या चक्कर है। सो आर्टिकल 13 के बारे में हमने ऑलरेडी बहुत बातचीत करी हुई है इन दी अदर लेक्चर्स, बट इन दिस वन we will see what the law includes. So Article 13 explicitly tells you that law includes any ordinance, order, bylaws, rule, regulation, notification, custom, or usage. Right. In addition to all of this, by various case laws, except for custom because it's already mentioned there, by various case laws, the Supreme Court has declared that a resolution passed by the state government, a government notification that sets up a commission of inquiry, a notification slash order under a statute, a custom, basically आपके पर्सनल लॉज के अंडर कोई कस्टम है, मतलब कोई भी नहीं, पर्सनल लॉज में थोड़ी सी कॉम्प्लेक्स बात है, आगे अभी करनी है हमने ये बातचीत. Bylaws of a municipal or a statutory body, regulations made by LIC, they fall all under laws. Is a constitutional amendment a law? जो सारी लड़ाई till 1973, all mostly case laws are related to that concept. We have already discussed this in the amendability of the constitution lecture, which has already been uploaded in the course. Please check that. Achha. Personal laws are, well, they are equivocal. Now, what do you mean by this word equivocal? That is, there is a mixed stand on it that the Supreme Court has taken. Our personal laws fall under the definition of law in Article 13. So they have mostly adopted a policy of non-interference. In some cases, courts have held that personal laws are not incompatible with fundamental rights. In other cases, they have been declared that they are not law under Article 13. So courts have taken more like a policy approach. Courts have polished basically followed more a policy approach rather than a purely legalistic approach, because if they were purely following a legal approach, they would have held any personal law कौन से हिंदू law, Muslim law, Parsi law, Jews का law, जो भी basically अलग अलग personal laws that basically we all follow, तो उसके अंदर they would have held the elements of those laws because they are very, they're very ancient. So most of them, quite a lot of elements of them are incompatible with part 3. So they would have declared them, well, invalid, because Article 13 prohibits the state to make any law. But personal laws, they're not precisely made by the state. They've been existing since centuries now. But thanks to Article 13 में custom भी तो already included है. तो यहाँ पे कोर्ट्स ने प्योरली लीगल काम नहीं किया, दे ठीक है ना पॉलिसी अप्रोच की, नहीं नहीं ठीक है भाई, राम राम. आप लोग कभी कह देते हैं नहीं नहीं पर्सनल लॉ इज नॉट इनकम्पैटिबल विद द फंडामेंटल राइट्स, कभी कह देते हैं दे आर नॉट लॉ ओनली अंडर आर्टिकल 13, तो पार्ट 3 की तो कोई बात ही नहीं है. राइट नाउ 13 क्लॉज 1 ऑलवेज राइट, इट अप्लाइज टू प्री कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल लॉज. 13 क्लॉज 2 applies to post constitutional law. Now what does 13 clause 1 say? 13 clause 1 is basically talking about आपका, this is all laws enforced on the territory of India immediately before the commencement of this constitution. So this is applying to pre-constitutional laws insofar as they are inconsistent with the provision of this part shall, to the extent of such inconsistency, I'm going to come to these words, be void. Of this void की interpretation has been changed. All right, again discussed in the ये आपकी interpretation of the constitution का lecture, but we are going to discuss it here again as well. The state shall not make any law which takes away. So this is post-constitutional law. 13 clause 1 is pre-constitutional law. All right. तो ये आपने पॉइंटर उसको मार्क करना है और एग्जामिनर को बताना है कि आपको ये बात पता है. 13 clause 1 is prospective, not retrospective. Basically because see, pre-constitutional law जो exist कर रहा था, the constitution didn't commence till 1950. So presume that there is a law that is in force in 1946. It is valid in itself. So it becomes void only after, if it is incompatible with part 3, only after the commencement of the constitution, not before. So it is perfectly valid till 26 January 1950, but as soon as the constitution becomes alive, well, it goes. लेकिन तब तक का किया हुआ काम from 46 to 50 of that law remains absolutely okay. So it's prospective, it is not retrospective, so that it doesn't go back in time and kills the law. No, it is prospective कि जिस दिन से कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन आई उसके बाद से ये इफेक्ट होगा कि पुराना वाला आपका void हो जाएगा. लेकिन उसमें भी एक तकलीफ है, it will be eclipsed. We just come to that now. By telling the examiner about 13 clause 1, you will introduce the doctrine of eclipse. The prospective nature of 13 clause 1 has given rise to the doctrine of eclipse. Do mention this line 1 to 1. So it's Bikaji versus State of MP, in which स्टैट्यूट रेलेवेंट बेसिकली, जहाँ पे एक और ट्रिक है कि पूरी पूरी एक्ट के हमें नाम लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है, तो रेलेवेंट एक्ट आप वर्ड यूज कर सकते हैं टू बाईपास बेसिकली दिस इज अ हैक कि अगर आपको नहीं याद आ रही द एक्ट, जैसे इस केस में ट्रांसपोर्ट एक्ट आपको नहीं मेंशन करना, आपको यू हैव टू डॉक्ट्रिन ऑफ इक्लिप्स के बारे में बताना है, तो आपको जस्ट द यू कैन यूज द वर्ड्स रेलेवेंट एक्ट. So the relevant act, the statute was enacted in 948, excluded all persons from transport. Okay, this 948, the constitution is not there. Now what happens is that in 1950, as soon as constitution comes in, thanks to 19 clause 1 clause G, in which you are allowed to practice all professions, whatever of your choice, it comes in. Correct? 19 clause 1 clause G को pause करके एक बारी देख लीजिएगा ताकि रिवीजन हो जाए कि वहाँ पे क्या लिखा हुआ है. So it becomes void, that Transport Wali Act enacted in 1948. Alright. But in 1951, what happens? 1951, 9 clause 1 clause G itself is amended by 19 clause 2, that is, we put in the first amendment, we got in the reasonable restrictions. Now the state says कि महाराज वो वाला जो ये वाला जो एक्ट था ना, it has become alive. So the petitioner says, हमारे बीकाजी भैया कहते ये कैसे एक एंड पे आप कह रहे थे void है, आर्टिकल 13 में void लिखा है कि नहीं, और यहाँ पे आप कह रहे हैं it has become alive again. How does something that is void, that is dead now, becomes alive? So the question was posted to the Supreme Court, and that is where doctrine of eclipse came in to solve this problem. The Supreme Court said that अच्छा, Supreme Court पे basically the question was posted कि do you need to reenact the law or will the law automatically become alive once it is fixed and brought in line with the fundamental rights? So the doctrine of eclipse says the pre-constitutional law was merely eclipsed, it was not dead, it solves this problem. It changed the interpretation of the word void in 13 clause 1. I've discussed this again in another lecture as well. Doctrine of eclipse applies only to pre-constitutional laws. Post-constitutional laws, why not? Why does it not apply? Because they are nullity ab initio. They are null ab initio क्योंकि 13 clause 2 में लिखा हुआ है ना, the state shall not make. So you are prohibited already. But doctrine of eclipse is needed because those laws, they were valid once upon a time, but thanks to doctrine of eclipse, they have been eclipsed. So thanks to the prospective nature rather of 13 clause 1, they have been eclipsed using the doctrine of eclipse. All right. So under the आपकी pre-constitutional law, this law was valid but later eclipsed. Thus doctrine is needed. 13 clause 2 prohibits the very making of such a law in case a law contravenes a fundamental rights. That is, basically it is limited to citizens only. It continues to be operative for non-citizens. For example, some of the fundamental rights are available to non-citizens as well, right? Let us say that such a situation develops in which आपका ये वाला जो काम है, that pre-constitutional law, in case of pre-constitutional law contravenes the fundamental rights, that is basically limited to citizens only. Like for example, आपका article 19, right? It's only available to citizens only. It continues to be operative for non-citizens, companies, etc. That is was declared in state of Gujarat versus Sri Ambika Mills. तो ये ज़रूर लिख लीजिए. This is a very crucial case law. Now post-constitutional law, if it is amended, it becomes alive or well, it needs to be reenacted. वैसे ज़्यादातर कुछ नहीं. It's DHC, the Delhi High Court has in one of the case laws, ज़्यादा कोई mention करने की जरूरत नहीं case law, that it needs to be reenacted post-constitutional law. Post-constitutional law basically आपका same, let us say the question was posed कि अच्छा what if a post-constitutional law is void thanks to it being violative of some fundamental rights? What happens? Do we need to reenact it or will it become automatically again available? No, it will have to be reenacted. So Delhi High Court, and makes common sense as well, कोर्ट जाने की जरूरत क्या थी, पता नहीं लोग वेला टाइम पास करते रहते हैं. Now doctrine of severability, again in Article 13, law is void to the extent of such repugnancy given in this doctrine was used. RMDC versus Union of India 957 का case law है. Guidelines, basically it was said the intention of legislature is the determining factor in using this doctrine. So if valid and invalid portions can't be separated, the act is invalid in its entirety. So doctrine of eclipse के मैंने YouTube से और eclipse और severability के मैंने दोनों YouTube से lecture भी इस कोर्स में इंक्लूड करे हुए हैं, तो वो आप एक बार देख लीजिएगा. मतलब जस्ट टू गेट अ फार मोर क्लैरिटी, यहाँ पे भी मैंने समझा ही दिया. सो डॉक्ट्रिन ऑफ एक्लिप्सिस, कैंची से आप जो लॉ इनवैलिड है आप उसको काट देते हैं कि जी तुम जाओ. बाकी जो पूरी हम एक्ट मान लेते हैं, एक एक्ट में 100 सेक्शन है and out of the 100 sections 90 are perfectly valid, they're not violating any fundamental right, but 10 are violating fundamental rights. what this does is कि जी आपको हम वो जो बाकी जो 10 हैं वो काट देते हैं and we keep the act. So that is doctrine of severability. So in RMDC case there was basically an act called Price Competition Act. Now it was broad enough to include competitions of gambling nature as well as skill के, ठीक है जी. तो 19(1) clause G में it was said, well, you can restrict gambling but you cannot restrict anyone from holding a skill based competition. इसके अंदर skill चाहिए आपकी to win that prize money. So therefore it was basically severed. तो gambling वाला portion हमने उठा के कूड़ेदान में फेंक दिया and skill वाला portion हमने रख लिया. So that's RMDC. Then in Ramesh Thapar versus State of Madras is a very popular case law. एक और basically और फंडों के लिए भी ये case law है, but यहाँ पे हम severability के लिए यहाँ पे हम कह रहे हैं when provision is mixed up, do you scrap it in its entirety? मतलब जब आप ये clearly ये काटा पीटी ना कर पाए, what do you do? So yes, so you dump it in its entirety. Another doctrine that is related to 13 is waiver of fundamental rights. This was propounded in Basheshwar Nath versus IT Commissioner. So section 5 clause 1 of the relevant act, right? The petitioner agreed to settle rupees 3 lakhs because he was hiding basically his income. So his concealed income tax plus penalty, he agreed कि मैं पैसे दूंगा तुम्हें in EMI. So this is 1954, alright. Now next year in 1955, another case law, Supreme Court declared Section 5 Clause 1 as violative of Article 14. So petitioner said कि महाराज Section 5 Clause 1 जिसके अंदर मैं ये दे रहा था पैसे, it has been violated, मतलब वो तो अब law है ही नहीं, it is dead. So petitioner challenged his settlement, but plea of waiver was raised against him. So the income tax department said, well, you have waived off your fundamental right, boss, already by agreeing to this settlement. You have waived it off. Supreme Court said, भाई साहब ऐसे कैसे होगा? Supreme Court upheld the petitioner's contention and it held Article 14 cannot be waived. Fundamental rights are mandatory in nature. Individual cannot relieve liability of the state. You cannot waive off your fundamental rights in India. Alright? And so a minority opinion, minority judgment भी आई थी कि yes, you can waive but only for his benefit, but cannot basically waive fundamental rights meant for general public. This was also repeated in the case law of Behram versus State of Maharashtra. I don't think that you need to write this, छोड़ दीजिएगा. Now in USA, however, the fun fact is you can waive your fundamental rights off. In India, you cannot. Fundamental rights cannot be waived. Alright. The doctrine of non-waiver we have developed. It denotes manifestation of role of protector of fundamental rights. Alright. So now Olga Tellis versus Bombay Municipal Corporation. What does this mean? तो यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा था जी, ओल्गा डेलिस का बड़ा पॉपुलर सा केस है. So it payment dwellers, not developers, dwellers, झुग्गी वगैरह लगाई हुई पेमेंट में, they gave an undertaking that they will not claim any fundamental rights to put up huts on pavements and would not obstruct demolition on a later date. So वो झुग्गी लगाने के लिए उनसे हमने पहले अंडरटेकिंग ले ली, हम झुग्गी लगाने के लिए तुम्हें यहाँ पे 5-7 हफ्ते का टाइम दे रहे हैं, लेकिन उसके बाद आके तोड़ दूंगा और उस टाइम मत कहना मेरा फंडामेंटल राइट है, मेरी राइट टू लाइफ है, ये वो. Later, but then they put up the plea of Article 21 की जी हमारी तो right to life है, आप कैसे हमारी झुग्गी हटा रहे हैं यहाँ से फुटपाथ से. So in Olga Tellis, the Supreme Court basically said, sorry, fundamental rights cannot be waived by an undertaking. Sorry, हटो परे. Now in Nursing Pal versus Union of India, fundamental rights cannot be bartered away. So you cannot basically exchange it for something else from your employer. So a casual laborer, he was basically the petitioner was a casual laborer in a telecom department. He worked for 10 years. He acquired temporary status, but he was prosecuted for a criminal offense but acquitted. In the meantime, his service was terminated. He questioned the order but also accepted retrenchment benefit. मतलब जी मेरे को जाने के सारे benefit, post retirement benefit, etc. etc. मुझे दे दो. So Supreme Court basically when he approached the Supreme Court for this कि जी मेरे को निकाल कैसे दिया है, but he had already accepted benefits as well. The Supreme Court said service could not be terminated without departmental inquiry and hearing. Acceptance of benefits does not mean that he's given away his constitutional rights. All right. So that is the thing, and well, you cannot waive off your fundamental rights. So that is the doctrine of non-waiver. USA वाला point mention करना ही करना है कि जी yes you can mention. तो doctrine of eclipse mention करेंगे, doctrine of severability mention करेंगे, और ये आप काम करेंगे doctrine of waiver. ये 3 डॉक्ट्रिन्स जब भी आर्टिकल 13 पे आंसर लिखेंगे यू हैव टू मेंशन. नेक्स्ट वी गो टू राइट टू इक्वालिटी. अब इसके ऊपर अपना मॉडल आंसर तैयार कर लेते हैं. कुछ भी एग्जामिनर पूछे जो पॉइंट हमने मेंशन करने वो सब आएंगे. राइट. होपफुली यू आर एंजॉइंग द कोर्स and hopefully all of this is helping you. I believe that we're doing a decent enough job in trying to provide or trying to prepare in advance. What all do we write on topics that they keep on popping up, क्योंकि questions तो यही आएंगे, and we need to be prepared well in advance just to write article 12 state देखा ठक 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 अजय हासिया वासिया, and यहाँ पे फटाफट eclipse severability, वहाँ पे सोचने का टाइम नहीं है, वहाँ पे हमें हमारा आंसर पहले से प्रिपेयर चाहिए फॉर ईच एंड एवरी टॉपिक, ठीक है जी, एंड दैट इज व्हाट द पर्पस ऑफ दिस कोर्स एनी विच वे इज. ऑलराइट, नाउ सी यू ऑन दिस. ऑलराइट, टेक केयर, बाय.